How's it going, everyone? My name is DrapPep. Welcome back to another installment of this series. One of the favorite games I love playing is games where the rules get complicated as you play. This is something I've always been fascinated by ever since I was a child. An example of this is the game Mao. M-A-O, Mao. It's a card game, right? And the first rule you learn is that no one is allowed to talk. Now, of course, you can take, like, one person can declare paused game so they can explain what's going on, but that's it for the whole game. You get one pause, and then the rest of the game, you can't talk. The only time that you can talk is at the end of the game, when everyone's out of cards. The objective is really to try to get all the cards in your hand onto the table, but that's not really the objective. The objective is to follow every rule. The first rule being the simplest: no one can talk. If you do talk, you have to draw a card, making it harder for you to win. The winner of the game gets to come up with the next rule, and that gets added on to all of the rules. So eventually it starts off with no one can talk. And then by, I would say, after the fifth victory, now it's no one can talk. You have to knock on the table when you draw a card. You have to itch your nose when you pass the turn. You have to obey the ace, because when you play ace, that skips the turn. So if the person after you takes their turn, they have to draw a card because they broke that rule. And then now the new rule is you have to pat yourself on the shoulder before you pass the turn. Everyone now has to follow these rules. Anyone who breaks the rules has to draw a card. And what makes this game fun is that at first it starts off simple, but then after a while it becomes complicated. It becomes abstract. There's so many rules, now it's hard to keep track of all of them. And the best part, anyone who joins the game, they don't get to know what the rules were. They have to pick up how the rules are being played by watching everyone else. So whoever joins, it's even more entertaining to watch them have to figure out how the game works. They have to figure out what all the rules are. The only rule that they could know is that no one could talk. That's the only rule they're allowed to know. So I love games like that. I love games where it starts off simple, but then as the game goes on, it gets complicated. Not because I enjoy difficult to play games, I enjoy the struggle. I enjoy watching other people try to figure out how the game works. That's my favorite. And for a game where the entire purpose of the game is to be complicated, that's my favorite. I love that. I've honestly, as of right now, as I'm doing this episode, I have thought of how cool would that be if there was a game of tag where the rules get complicated as you go, where the game lasts for maybe, let's say, 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and the only rule that exists is that the person who's it has to tag someone else to be it. And that's the rule. But then the person who wins, right, the person who never got tagged, they're the ones that get to come up with the next rule. And that complicates the game. For example, you could say, oh, well, the next rule is that tree, that specific tree is safe. And whoever puts their hand on that tree for the next 15 seconds is safe. Okay. Now there's a safe spot. Now everyone knows where to run to if they feel like they're running out of energy. Okay, well then maybe the next rule is once you're tagged, you have to stay put for 10 seconds. You can't run. You have to stay there for 10 seconds. Because that way it gives everyone else a chance to run away. Now everyone has a chance to get further away from you, making the game more complicated. Now the person who's it, they have to stand there for 10 seconds, and there's a safe spot they have to keep in mind. You see, as the game continues, at first it started simple. You tag one person, they're it. But then towards the end, after you guys have been most likely been playing for like 5 or 6 hours, now you've got like a plethora of rules. And what would make it fun is if whoever shows up, they don't know the rules are. The only rule they know is that if you're tagged, you're it. but they don't know about the other rules. It's up to them to figure it out. They have to look around. I think what I love about games like this is you can mess with them. You can then start doing things that are not a part of the rules, and they will think that it is. They'll think so. They'll see you do it, and they're like, okay, that must be part of the game. No, it's not. You messed with them. You added something that was not a part of this game. There's another game I really like. It's has nothing to do with what I just said, but it's called I think it's called Jason or Friday the 13th. I don't remember. It's themed around Jason. What you do is you take a deck of cards and you remove because there's two Joker cards, right? There's two that are added to every deck, and you only take one of them. And what you do is you make six even piles of cards, and you had shuffled the Joker card, the one Joker card, into the deck before you did it. And so the objective is you have to decide where the Joker card is, the Jason card, right? You have to decide which cabin, because all six piles represent six different cabins. And if you guess wrong, then you have to look through the stack that you picked. If you look through it and the Joker card is not in there, then you have to look through the other cabins, and whichever cabin the Joker card was in, you have to discard all of those cards. Those all get discarded, and you do it again. But this time, instead of six cabins, now you have five cabins, and you keep going until you find which pile the Joker card is in. That game I especially like playing. That's kind of like a solitary game that you can play. You can play with someone else, but honestly, that's a game that you can really play by yourself, outside of solitary. But it's another game I really enjoy playing with a deck of cards, because Mao is a card game where it's abstract rules that keep getting complicated. That particular one is also one of my personal favorites. I I really love playing card games. I really do. It's one of my favorite, and I think that's something that's kind of like just passed down to me by my family. Because like my family, we're pretty competitive. All right. If you ever see us play Monopoly, you would understand. All right, we're very competitive, especially when it comes to Monopoly. That's a cutthroat game for us. No one trusts each other when we start playing Monopoly. No one. We start taking sides real fast. But I remember when we would play card games, that was definitely a highlight for me. That was so much fun to play card games with my family, with all of my aunts and uncles. Oh man. And I think a lot of that got passed down to me. And a lot of the times we would have a lot of homebrewed rules. And I think that's what this stems from. Because like for example, when we play Monopoly, we had all kinds of made up rules. And a lot of times we would all decide of like, oh yeah, you know what? I think this makes more sense if we do it like this. So the game was constantly evolving with us. And then whenever someone new would show up, they'd just be like, you can't do that. That's not allowed. And we're like, oh yeah, we do that here. It's fine. Like for example, in the rules, free parking is just free parking. That's all free parking is. But to us, we have a pot. And so whenever we have to pay luxury tax or income tax, it would all go into the middle of the board. And so the middle of the board starts off with like $50. And every time we'd have to pay those taxes, it goes into the pot. And then whoever gets in that free parking, they get the pot. They get all that money in the middle. And that could make or break the game. You can go from going last place to possibly winning the game because of that. That changes everything. And I remember a lot of people would show up and they would see us do this, and they're like, you know what, I think we're going to start doing that. That actually makes sense. Because free parking is kind of boring. Of course you want to add a rule where free parking gets something. And a lot of times, I see that my family does this a lot. And sure, we get called cheaters a lot, but we feel like if everyone agrees to the rules, then it's not cheating. I don't know. I think my love for complicated rules in games stems from that. I think watching my family make a habit of changing the rules just to make it more interesting is the reason why I love games where the rules are constantly changing, where the rules start simple and they become very difficult to follow. And I think that's where it stems from, honestly. But that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.